I feel like after watching today's matches, you guys will gladly take that matchup versus Misfits over FNATIC maybe because the amount of curveballs. Am I correct, Chippy?
I think that I'm really not too sure. I have to like rewatch a little bit more closer the matchups because I really think those picks are not picked for a reason. Like you cannot just go into those matchups and expect yourself to win or come out ahead. Like you will provide something in the later stages, and that's what you pick it for. I think also the pick and bans were a little bit all over the place today, with like Esri being picked in early and then picking Thresh versus Esri alone. And I think it's a little bit questionable what happened in the pick and ban phase itself. But I think that if, for example, G2 right now, how they are looking, I mean, after the Rocket games, or if they practice properly, will be able to punish FNATIC, and it will get way harder to surprise, you know, like a well-trained team.
Yeah. Harder, but not impossible. I feel like
it's definitely not impossible.
Yeah.
I think we saw a couple cases where, yes, there's like, I think especially game one, it's very results-oriented, because the early inning phase did not play out the way it technically on paper should have, based on our opinions. But then again, game two, the Vayne made a lot of sense, so that's where an opening. But I think if you play against Sven on bot lane, this guy is really good at, especially even when you listen to his stream, breaking down bot lane matchups to the core and the fundamentals behind it. Therefore, he can extrapolate much better, like, how do you play against a Twitch? And they also have better communication from bot lane to the team when one of these picks needs more ganks or less ganks or needs to be called for a roam. I think the G2 bot lane is catered better at around dealing and containing REKKLES and JESIZ.
Oh yeah, the bot lane, because even Mythy with not being on top of his game, arguably this split, he also has that knowledge, which is pretty insane for that bottom lane. So we'll see what happens there, and we are going to dive deeper on next week's fight for the finals and get a word in with FNATIC's coach Finlay. So if you're joining us in client, be sure to load up youtube.com/LOL for the full-length edition of the post-game lobby. And with that, as we speak, Drakos is standing by with FNATIC's coach, so let's send it over for a word.
Thank you, Shox. Excited to be sitting here with Finlay once again after a victorious 3-0 series over H2K. Now, I'm curious what your role looked like in this week preparing for this series versus H2K.
Well, I guess I can touch a little bit on what SOAZ said. Everyone just thinks that we play like we only get wins because of the comfort champs with Shen, Lee Sin, Kennen. So we knew for sure these three champions are going to be banned, right? So basically what I just do is make sure that we have good preparation going into the week. So when we go into the week, I'm telling players we should plan for this, we should plan for this, we should make sure we have a counter for this, and we can make sure that we can blind this, and in which scenarios that this is good. And then we basically just play our scrims out like this is what's gonna happen. Even if Shen, Kennen, and Lee Sin in scrims were not banned, we just wouldn't pick these champions because we just knew they were going to be banned. And because of this, well, it shows we were really prepared for today's games.
I mean, it definitely looked like it, and I'm curious for you, standing up on stage, talking to those guys through picks and bans, was there ever a moment of doubt or hesitation when you're telling them to lock in some of these picks that we may not view as conventional?
I think the drafts in all three games, we went into the games really confident because we got exactly what we wanted as like in terms of how the draft phase went. It was exactly what we prepared for the whole week, except for maybe with the old Vayne lock-in. Martin had to convince me really hard to play Vayne, and I let him go with it after his logic was good. So we just went with Vayne. We hadn't played a single game of Vayne at all, I think, this whole year in Scrim, and maybe one game in like 2 months ago. So, and he just turned up as he always does. So, yeah, I mean, it was pretty good there, I think, in terms of draft-wise.
Definitely looked good for the team, even if there were a lot of question marks. It seemed to prove anyone who would doubt the draft phase wrong. But looking at expectations for H2K, was this a style that you expected to work well against H2K, or was this just the best style that you guys could play?
Well, as SOAZ said, we learned a lot from Unicorns, right? We play a lot similar to them, only I guess with more cheesier picks or more different picks. And they 2-0'd H2K, right, in their most recent series. So we were actually very quietly confident going into the series that H2K were going to be overconfident and just think, oh, if we ban Kennen, Shen, and Lee Sin, then we're going to win. But I think we were actually very confident that they didn't know how we were going to counter this. And we were actually, Caps for sure said it was going to be a 3-0. He's been saying this for the whole week, so I guess it was true.
All right, well, good to hear that Caps is confident as well. Definitely earned it. Now, your next opponent, G2, I talked to SOAZ a little bit about this already, but are you at all worried that now that you've shown so many of these picks on stage that you may not have as many tricks up your sleeve, as many options when it comes into picking up against G2?
Well, they can't ban everything, right? You saw in Game 3, they were like, oh, we have to ban the LeBlanc and then Rise. And they were like, okay, we're just going to play Shen and Kennen, and we're going to get a free win with Shen and Kennen. So it's, I think what Prolly said was very incorrect when he said we're easier to prepare against than Roccat, because as we showed here, we're not an easy team to prepare against. We're going to first-time stuff on stage. Like SOAZ, he's known for first-timing champions on stage. Martin, just first-time Twitch and Vayne on stage. So I don't think you can predict what we're going to do, and I think this gives us a huge advantage against G2.
Definitely looking forward. Now, in the weeks to come, do you think it's going to be a similar preparation strategy? Is it going to be cookie cutter? Do you feel confident that you can just do exactly what you did this week against G2, or is it going to have to be a different strategy overall? I
think G2 are quite a similar team to H2K. There are 3 teams in Europe that play very similar in terms of Misfits, G2 and H2K. They're very slow, and they play the same sort of style like Ashe comps and with Syndra and Tank Top. So I think we can definitely have a good shot against G2 just because they're maybe a better version of H2K, and today we 3-0 the H2K, so I think definitely anything is possible. One of the first people I've sat down with, you and SOAZ both, who are so confident in a series versus G2, and frankly, it's good to hear. They have been the kings for a long time. Well, we nearly beat them, and I think we should have won our series against them. Like that game is really sad. I should be an undefeated coach right now, but unfortunately, I'm not. Not quite, but we'll see if we can improve the win rate, see what happens in the week to come. Thank you so much, Finley, for taking the time to sit down and talk with me. We'll send it back over to Shocks and the guys at the desk to further talk about what we saw today.